All right, in this video, I want to do kind of a pretty in-depth breakdown of a full account overhaul we did for this e-commerce client. They're super niche. They basically sell like sheepskin decor, rugs, throws, blankets, reindeer hide related decor, even like horns and stuff like that. So kind of really cool, high ticket, just a niche, right? I mean, those rugs can cost like a couple $100 sometimes. It's real genuine, 100% real, stuff like that. But this was their account January to June 30th. Now, we actually came in and kind of overhauled things in August, and then we kind of came back again, did some light work in October, and recently, again, last week, they just brought us back in again to further scale some stuff for like Black Friday, Christmas sales, New Year's, and then throw in a bunch of new targeting. So we'll kind of go step by step and lean into that, but just kind of want to show you the high level overview of their account. Now, between January and June, they spent a total of around 14,000 Canadian dollars with a ROAS of 200%. So, I mean, okay, 2x ROAS is really nothing to take home and be proud of, right? Obviously, they got the job done. They probably made some decent money doing it themselves, but we can kind of just take a look, and obviously this campaign was a pretty big drag. It spent 2,500 and only returned 107%. Shopping campaign, that one actually kind of rolled it, right? 263%. That's their best performing campaign during this period. And honestly, probably also the most simple campaign they set up because it's just a shopping campaign. Then they had a Performance Max, and then they had another one as well. This one obviously has been renamed since we overhauled it, but previously it was only a remarketing feed-only campaign, which you actually can't make anymore in Google, so it's kind of interesting they still have it. If you know what feed-only is for PMax, then that's awesome. You probably know your stuff. Otherwise, it's basically just a PMax that has absolutely zero anything attached to it except for the signal, and then it serves in the shopping feed. So it's like an old trick in the book back when PMax first launched. So that obviously is actually still live. But they basically only had a Performance Max and then kind of a messy search campaign, I would say, right? Like you can kind of go through here, and then we can also look at their old PMax as well. So you'll notice they had a bunch of asset groups, right? They had one that just basically had mixed targeting. Like some of these search themes really didn't make sense. They're not bad actually. It just was kind of like poorly managed and set up. Like these were actually pretty good search themes that are kind of on the money, but you can just see they never really hit. I mean, they always kind of had like between like a 1 to 2x return, which just isn't ideal. Obviously this one had like a 4 ROAS, but you also have to look, one sale, right? It's not really too much, but when you look at the top spenders here, like these guys here, it just really didn't produce. And then you can take a look at their other one as well, which is going to be that old search campaign. Sorry, I clicked the wrong one there. We can take a look at, I think it's this one here. Same thing. It was just very kind of generic, very basic. They just had a bunch of broad match, phrase match keywords and terms. Taking a look at it. Again, it's actually kind of on the money. Like this is kind of relevant searches. It's just not properly maintained, structured, and all that good stuff. Then this is when we came in and actually kind of reverted a lot of things. There's kind of like some high level notes in here. Some of this was actually done in October, so we're kind of missing a lot of like reference here. Obviously there's a whole gap between what happened in like August and September. But I mean, just in general, you can see we basically just kind of trimmed things down, condensed the account structure, made it make sense. We created a new PMax campaign. So we had a Performance Max that was just targeting their generic, product types. Like you can see, we had one for animal hide. We had another one that was solely audience signal, only search themes. We actually separated out remarketing and kept it as the feed only. We also added in a generic shopping campaign with a T ROAS. We adjusted their search campaign. They had 2 running at one point. So these were kind of some more like mundane changes. Then obviously after those changes, here we are in September, October. You can see things started to look a little bit brighter. It honestly wasn't a huge initial difference, but they were starting to scale up and see a much better return, right? We were still averaging like a 2.6, but things were definitely a lot cleaner, headed in the right direction. Shopping campaign picked up. It was at a 4x ROAS. The generic campaign was a pretty good call because before they kind of stopped running generic targeting, they kind of gave up on it, but it was structured so much better. And even since then, it's really picked up. And I'll jump into those changes here in a minute because those are also pretty in-depth. And that's going to be where the juice of a lot of these changes are. But I mean, we can kind of take a look at some performance back then. And obviously some of this is no longer running. Like we had an overlap remarketing campaign earlier we shut off because they created it inside of there. But you can see we just kind of trimmed it down and kept things simple, right? I mean, in the end, when you're running a search campaign or a Performance Max campaign, whatever you're doing in Google, you just want things to be aligned by search intent so you can control your targeting, control your audience, actually see the data more at a granular level. right? Before they only had the one asset group. So if you have one asset group that's targeting all their products like sheepskin, reindeer hide, horn decor, all this other stuff, and it's all just kind of mixed together, how do you know what's actually converting and getting sales? Whereas here I can say, okay, our sheepskin targeting or our sheepskin products during this time frame, we're getting a 3x ROAS, whereas our reindeer hide, we're not looking so good, right? We're only at a 1.7. So I can actually make these decisions now based off the data we're seeing because we've segmented things out. Same with remarketing, right? We can hop over to remarketing and we can see, okay, what is working, right? Okay, good. Our remarketing is actually pulling in a 1.7 ROAS. Okay, what can we do to make that better, right? So let's go ahead and jump to the changes that we made since this time period. So now we're going to lean into November and where we are now in December, which is kind of the current state of the account where the bulk changes have been made and the ROAS is really picked up. All right, here's a quick kind of breakdown of some of the changes. I know it's kind of probably hard to read. It's a little messy because I pasted this from our Slack into a Google Doc so I could share this. But I mean, this kind of does give a high level overview. But let's first, before we break this down, let's take a look at the account and kind of work backwards. All right, now we're referencing between November and present day December. This is where the bulk of changes were made. Keep in mind, a lot of these were actually made right before Black Friday and just a week ago. So I could even, change to see our more recent ROAS. But right now, I mean, things are definitely looking a lot better in the account. They're much more happy. And this is probably more of a permanent account structure for them that we're going to scale up. Obviously, we can disregard branded. That's 6,300% ROAS. Doesn't mean much to us. They're only spending $12 a day there. And you can probably tell if you look at the actual conversion amount. They've just gotten lucky on a couple pretty large sales, which has kind of inflated that number. But they only have a couple, bucks to spend per day in branded just because some competitors bid on them. So they want to protect that. But let's break down each campaign here. So we have a Performance Max, which is solely going after remarketing and competitors. They didn't have this before. They had a remarketing only feed, which is going to be this here. And if you can tell by the spend, these just went live, I think like 2 days ago. So this is super fresh, super new. I imagine it should do pretty well. I mean, before their current remarketing is the feed only. So now they can actually serve remarketing on display, discovery, shopping. And they're doing the same thing with kind of competitor conquesting. So these are going to be competitors that are pretty much in their niche and direct competitors. We can even take a look at what some of these asset groups look like. So you can see here we have the competitors one are going to go after specifically people who are searching those competitor names. And we're also doing a little bit of an overlap of retargeting, meaning people who have interacted with or visited these competitor websites in the last 30 days, or actually in the last 60 days. So what this is going to do is going to retarget people who've interacted with these competitor URLs, basically exactly their customer and their audience, or show our ads to people who are actively searching for their competitors right there, right? Then as we further kind of scroll down and look at the rest, the other remarketing campaign is pretty self-explanatory. These are people who visited their website but didn't convert, or they just went ahead and added to their cart. They showed engaged, but they didn't actually convert or purchase, so we're going to remarket them. A lot of these ad copies have been overhauled as well, which we'll touch on. So yeah, you can see here, obviously, the change log, we added the two new asset groups. We have competitors, we have remarketing. We scaled up the budget. They were only spending around $10 a day before on remarketing. Now that we have another signal for remarketing, we have more budget, and we have a competitor audience. It makes sense to kind of triple that almost. Same thing here. There's that custom audience signal we have. I overhauled a lot of their ad copy. We also did scale up their shopping campaigns, as those have been absolutely rolling lately. We just actually added like $10 a day more, just 2 minutes before this video. So they've been spending 60 a day. Now they're spending 70. That one is cranking it. I think we're at 600% ROAS over 60 days just from the shopping campaign alone. So that's kind of becoming their bread and butter campaign. We even did a lot of like product listing changes there. Before they were serving products, all their products, and they have a lot of various products like marble decor, plates, and stuff like that. So now it's a lot more refined. Then down here, we can actually see some of the ad copy messaging I went ahead and overhauled. I just wrote this here to share with the client, kind of get their approval. Not a whole lot, but to be honest, a lot of their existing ad copy was just kind of cookie cutter and basic, or it was like all lowercase. It just wasn't right. It was like weird stuff too, very redundant. You could tell it was just like mostly ChatGPT AI, or just, it was weird. They also had mix match ad copy, meaning, an asset group for Icelandic sheepskins was talking about reindeer hide, right? Stuff like that, which just makes sense why the conversion rate, the CTR, the ROAS, and all that was just significantly lower than it should be because everything was mismatching. Now, if we go ahead and actually break down their generic campaign now and filter to what's running, Same thing, you'll notice a lot of these are more fresh and more new. This asset group just went live today. They want to advertise this other catalog they have on their page. Same thing with reindeer hide. That one's actually been live for a while, but it was underperforming. The client created it. We went in and overhauled it some more, probably a week ago. So that's still probably pretty fresh. If we reference more recent data, probably doesn't have much spend or conversions. But you can see we did a lot here with audience signals, search themes, a couple campaign level settings we had to go in and fix. I'm not sure if I have my notes here for the reindeer hide one, but we can probably just kind of break it down. So you go here, obviously everything's gonna be super specific. I'm only using search themes for this. And of course you wanna pick up on the fact that the specific catalog being served here, not only are the signals specific to the product, right? This is very specific to Horn Decor. So are the images being used and the ad copy, right? That's super important. We don't want to talk about rugs or pillows or, throws, because that's not what we're advertising. So the ad copy matches our search intent. The landing page also matches the search intent, right? We're taking them straight to the actual catalog page that's servicing this, that's selling this. The descriptions match, the images match, everything matches. Even the products being served in the Google Merchant Center are filtered down to only serve those specific products in the shopping feed. Same thing for sheepskin and the other ones, right? It's all very relevant. The ad copy, the targeting is all very relevant, specific to that. The images are very relevant and specific. Everything here is in line to only serve these specific products. And then of course we have the one we just launched here. We're still kind of gathering some data, figuring out which one works for this, but we can even shrink down and go to a more recent time frame. Now looking at the last 14 days when a majority of these have been introduced and changed, you can see it looks a little bit better. Like, okay, good, reindeer hide has actually only spent $153. We're almost hitting a 3x ROAS, which is right where we want to be. We're kind of making those strides, we're making things right. And we just changed that ad copy a couple days ago, so hopefully it's getting better, right? Same thing here. If we go over to the kind of what I call their bread and butter targeting is this. That's like their most popular product, and it's where most of the budget gets spent. A lot of the ad copy there has been overhauled as well, right? They had a lot of more generic AI cookie cutter stuff. It's nothing special here though. I wouldn't say our ad copy is anything like amazing. It just gets the job done. I'm sure we can probably brainstorm some better stuff, and I'll work with the client to get that. But in the meantime, this is kind of what we came in and overhauled, because again, they had a lot of mismatching headlines, and they had stuff about just products that we weren't advertising in this group. So it just didn't match what the user was searching, right? And now, of course, we have much better images. The client luckily takes their own photographs, and they do wonderful photography. I mean, you can just see how great these photos are. So obviously we have a lot of great photos, and then it helps that those are being served on the Merchant Center. Personally, I'm most excited to actually see how this competitor asset group performs. I love setting up competitor ads and other client accounts, especially through PMax with like shopping feeds, retargeting, Gmail discovery. It can really be crazy. Like we have some accounts that are probably getting a 5 to 10 ROAS just from competitor. And then remarketing is always one of those easy ones. It's like an easy way to get additional sales. Like, it's just stupid not to do remarketing and at least put, 10, 20% of your budget in there, especially up front when you're newer to Google Ads. That way you can kind of boost your conversion data in the account and your sales. And for example, here's an entirely different account, but we can take a look to see a similar structure that's working really well. Obviously their shopping campaign's not doing too hot. We're working on that. But you can see here, these are the same approach we took with those two PMax campaigns, and they're pulling in a 7 ROAS here with 30 days, 8 ROAS on this one, and this one's scaling up. You can see we've done around probably $50,000 in revenue just between these two campaigns. And then there's obviously $100,000 in other revenue that have come from 2 other campaigns, but that would have mostly just come from their branded, and I think the other one is like a generic search campaign, but this client's a lot more heavier on branded for whatever reason. But that's why I'm not showing the branded though, because I don't count that as a part of our attributed sales. That's why I'm showing these two here. That's kind of rolling in the bread and butter, because it really does help when you kind of segment things a lot further down, especially in PMax, right? If we had one Performance Max campaign with one asset group that was doing generic targeting, remarketing, competitors, audience signals, search themes, and everything in one jumbled up mess, you're never going to know what's getting sales. This here is an example of what you don't want to do, right? So this is an account we did an audit for, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and it just kind of stuck in my mind, so I want to make a video breaking it down. But they're running this one Performance Max campaign. First off, they're also only spending $15 a day, but this is a problem here. I mean, they're serving one asset group. They didn't separate any of their targeting whatsoever. They're showing all their products on this one asset group, so they're not really filtering anything down, not things like specific or intent based. See, they're showing all their products, nothing's filtered down, and additionally, they have all their targeting mixed up, right? So you're telling me that this ad will show up for someone looking for a squat rack a functional trainer, or a power rack, right? And they also have some other keywords in there like bench press and stuff. I mean, let's think about that. If I'm looking to buy a bench press, I'd go to Google and I type in bench press, and a picture of a squat rack pops up in my shopping feed. I'm not going to buy that. That's not a bench press. I don't care about that. Not to mention they're also kind of combining targeting with remarketing. You can see they have the same thing here. They have demographics, audience signals, remarketing, all this stuff in one. So even if this was working and they were getting sales and I asked them and I said, hey, where did these sales come from? They can't tell me where these sales came from. They're going to go, oh, it came from this asset group. Right, but which specific targeting triggered those sales? Well, we don't know because we're doing everything here at once. It's just bad practice. Instead, they should have an asset. They should have a whole Performance Max campaign just split up in several asset groups that breaks down specifically each theme, right? One for squat racks, one for bench press, one for more generic home gym equipment, and then one for like one of those all-in-one Smith machines or whatever they're called, right? And then you can have a whole nother Performance Max campaign or maybe an asset group that's specifically only targeting interest and detailed demographics and those audience signals. And then guess what? You have another one that's targeting remarketing only. And then guess what? You have one last one that's going after those competitor terms, which is probably stuff like Smith machine, jacked up fitness, crunch fitness machines, that type of thing. This is not how you want your Performance Max to be built. This is the recipe for disaster. Don't do this.